guys, so this is what if, this is what if, Homelander or, Homelander slash Omni-Man was in Young Justice. Now, you're probably wondering what do you mean. Basically, I'm going to be fusing both characters in one, but both characters are going to be separate. Basically, in this world, I did, because I asked the person that pretty much asked for this request, what season should it be on? Now, I just replied to him, and been waiting for a long time, so I just did 80 meeting my email between season 2 and season 1, and here I am with season 1. So basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm trying to find a right episode, and I have pretty much came across the right episode to introduce this 1/2 characters. Now basically, this will be more of a alternate reality type thing, and basically, this guy, pretty much Invincible's brother. This won't be Invincible's brother, and basically, in this universe, he is actually an alternate version of the boys and the Invincible. Invincible. The Invincible universe and the boys are in the same universe in this world. Basically, it's a different world or different, pretty much alternate reality where the Vulturemites, or basically the Invincible universe, is a thing, but the government makes heroes kind of exactly like pretty much the boys. Homelander becomes a Superman of some sorts and becomes basically like Omni-Man's replacement for a couple years until Omni-Man goes crazy and actually succeeds in killing Homelander. Because Homelander is one of the weakest super beings in the pretty much world of Superman like heroes like Shazam, Superman, Omni-Man. Basically, Omni-Man's fought against heroes that are stronger or as strong as him, but he's stronger than them. Basically, Homelander is just the strongest because there's no other person made like him or built like him. Basically, he's never gone up against anybody the same strength as him. Because Storm, basically, I'm pretty sure she isn't as strong as Homelander. And Homelander's never really gone up against a actual fight against somebody stronger or the equal amount of strength as him. So I feel like, Homelander has the least amount of pretty much, combat skill or anything like that. So pretty much in this world, Homelander and Omni-Man would be living in the same world, but the government would have found out a way to try to make the perfect specimen. Now in this universe, Omni-Man is actually the only Viltrumite. Omni-Man has Mark Grayson. Mark Grayson gets abilities, but Mark Grayson is actually pretty much when he's born, he's raised a Viltrumite. So basically, he's raised a Viltrumite, and basically, Omni-Man brings pretty much his wife to Voltrum, and then basically raise, Mark as a Viltrumite. Now basically, basically when Omni-Man is off the planet, pretty much the world goes in kind of like a half chaos because Homelander actually does, train and become strong enough since he does know that he's against other super beings that are as strong as him in this world. So he trains himself and basically he becomes about the 1/4 of the power of Omni-Man. He becomes the world's protector for a couple of years, but over those years, he loses some DNA going up against some creatures or some beings, them being the pretty much snot out of him, and eventually him losing lots of amount of blood around the city, most of the government going out there, risking their lives to get the DNA. And when they get the DNA, get some bone marrow from, one event where Homelander was snapped in the back by some sort of super version of Bane and pretty much all that other stuff. So basically, the government got, a good amount of DNA from both Omni-Man and Homelander and cloned them both. Basically, them trying to make the perfect super being and basically not trying to make him as cruel and destructive as Homelander because Homelander never really put on a face. he put on a face, but he was never, when he was around or near when closed doors and there was no cameras, he showed his true colors, even if people saw him. And as long as there wasn't cameras or anything, or anybody could record them, he was himself. And Homelander was still, the jerk murderer he was, like in the Boys TV show. So basically, with Homelander being, a psychopath, the government saw that, Omni Man was left, but Omni Man put his face on. Omni Man was kind. Omni Man just was a good person deep down inside and just was better. And his evolution, spoilers, the comic book was just amazing. But basically, basically, um, well, basically, Omni Man and Homelander, they got enough DNA and they started to clone pretty much them. They started to clone both of their DNA into together, and they had to use a third piece of DNA from a woman to try to, stretch out the DNA. So basically, this clone was half pretty much artificial superhero like Homelander, and also was half Voltron. So he was incredibly strong. Plus, he was as strong as Invincible, since Invincible was half Voltramite. But since he wasn't half human, he was half modified, pretty much artificial superhuman. Basically, he was stronger than a half Voltramite and stronger than actually a full-blooded Voltramite together, because he had both of the powers, and basically he had the powers of Omni-Man, or half, Voltramite, or Invincible, and the powers of Homelander combined, him basically becoming pretty much 1 time stronger than a full-grown, full-blooded Voltramite. So he was incredibly strong. The clone also had immortality and all the abilities of Homelander, and also all the abilities of a Voltramite, plus a couple extra abilities. Basically, his extra abilities being able to pretty much, pretty much him being able to, him being able to be or regenerate his body. I'm basically, you know, Voltrumites are pretty, they do heal very quickly, but pretty much this Voltrumite, since the extra boost and pretty much both of their DNA, both of Homelander's and Omni-Man's DNA mixing together, they were able to make a better copy of the regeneration factor of a pretty much Voltrum, and basically gave him the ability, or gave him the regeneration of Deadpool times 10. Basically, him being able to regenerate, kind of like a cartoon. His limbs just popping back into place. No bones, no blood, no nothing. His body just popped back into place, meaning that he even got a cut. It wouldn't even matter because it would be gone in half a second. It wouldn't be gone in a second. It would be gone less than half a second. Basically, him never being able to really feel pain because his scars already healed before his pain receptors even, detect it. And also, pretty much, he's incredibly invulnerable. But basically, the only downside is that one of his abilities are weaker than both sides. Basically, he does have laser vision and all other stuff, but also he does have a second extra ability. He does have, since his third type of DNA from from a certain hero on Alaska in this different reality. Basically, he had the ability of tornado manipulation. In this universe, pretty much Red Tornado was actually organic and is a metahuman. So basically, they mixed metahuman DNA, and basically instead of him having tornado pretty much control, he had the ability to basically control pretty much matter itself. Basically, he can change the structure or the molecules of a item or a being. Not really. He can't change the molecules of a being because that's just too OP. But he does have the ability to change the molecules of his surroundings, kind of like Firestorm, but not on the same level as Firestorm. He can kind of like Adam Eve. He has the same abilities as Adam Eve, but just watered down to basically, you know, kitty level. So basically, he can change food into different type of foods, but it's just that the base compound or the base item has the same have the same type of density or somewhat 1% of the same type of pretty much you know molecules or structure as the original item he's trying to make. Like turning a sandwich into a baseball bat, he can't do that. He can't really change. He can't literally bend the rules of reality. Basically, he can just transform things that are already things and rework them. Basically, the only thing he can do now, with his limited amount of training, he could basically just rewind time or rewind the molecules on an item, making them whole again. Like if you bite a sandwich and there's nothing but the crust left and you're still hungry, you could just regenerate it and it's a whole sandwich again. So basically, you know, pretty much this clone of them is pretty strong, but his pretty much molecule manipulation isn't strong at all. Basically, is mainly just a trick of sorts. But basically, this clone will be named pretty much Project 6. Now, basically, Project 6 was pretty much also given a real name because they wanted the scientists to pretty much, not be so formal with it because they wanted to raise the child or the clone as a kind-hearted, caring person that would also go over and actually do the government's, bidding when he had to, trying to make the perfect mixture of kindness and cruelness. Kind of like, if Omni-Man and Homelander were combined. And this technically is if Homelander and Omni-Man were combined. Now, he would grow up to be about 15. Now, he would be, he would go up about be 13. And he would pretty much train himself and he would be trained by the scientist. By the time he was 13, he was going on his first mission in this outfit that the government made for him because they made it mainly based off Omni-Man's design, but basically didn't do a lot of Homelander design. Basically, that mark on his shoulder is actually replaced by a black falcon, kind of the same falcon or symbols that were on pretty much Homelander's outfit. So basically, he went out into the real world and went up against people, took down villains pretty quickly, and became a really profamed hero. He was also given pretty much a role on the teen team since, Mark wasn't raised on Earth. He never came across Adam Eve. So basically, he joined the teen team, but when he was on a mission with one of them, he was going up against one particular villain, and this villain will be named just, basically just a random villain, a made-up villain, and his pretty much role was basically he was making a portal to basically send pretty much people to different worlds or send items to this world. Now he was blasting in his last attempt before he was taken out or pretty much thwarted by pretty much number 6 or Project 6. Basically, he was Project 6, or his real name would be basically Oliver, because he would be named this. He would have the same name as Oliver Grayson, Omni-Man's other brother, his half brother, and basically, he would basically get teleported to the Young Justice world. He would be teleported into the air, and basically, the teleportation would have affected with his abilities and would have nullified the pretty much the compound that he gave or was given to Homelander to give his powers, and it was nullified by the teleportation. So for about 6 hours, he was just had the same strength as a half Vulturemite. So he started flying down. And basically, what would happen is that he would be falling down to the sky and not really being used to his Vulturemite, pretty much flight, because he switched to Vulturemite and Homelander's strength near the time. And when he combined most of his, Homelander and Vulturemite abilities at once, it did drain him a little bit of his power. But he wasn't used to using his Vulturemite pretty much flight at all. He barely used it at all. Mainly, he didn't even use it in the beginning. He never activated his Vulturemite flight in the first place. So he started falling down to the ground, not really knowing how to fly since he couldn't tap into his Homelander powers. So he started tapping into some of his Ultramite powers. Before he hit the ground, he levitated and basically he started flying around statically because he wasn't used to Ultramite pretty much powers, or basically the power of flight from Ultramite's strength. Now by the time he was falling down to the ground, he was levitating down to the ground. Basically, he saw something weird, and he saw some sort of silhouette up into the sky of a ship. And this would be the Young Justice, or Robin, Megan, Kid Flash, Aqualad, and Superboy in the Martian ship, basically driving around, and they would be at Happy Harbor. So this would be episode 3. So basically, well, they would be talking, and right when Wally was bringing up the whole entire Martian phasing through the wall thing, asking if Megan can do that, basically Oliver floated on top of the ship, and basically Megan was confused and lost control, and the ship made a hole, landing Oliver inside the ship. Now, basically, the ship at this point, what technically in canon wasn't camouflaged yet, but it is camouflaged now. And basically, right at that moment, they were confused, but they got a distress call by Red Tornado that it was trouble at Happy Harbor. And basically, they would have gone there, but they would have been stopped or trained down because they were, confused on, why Oliver, or why this kid just flew down, with this kid with black and red just flew down and basically, just appeared. Oliver would have gotten up, looking around, and basically would have seen them all looking at him. Oliver would have gotten up more and basically would have been looking around or said, "Where am I? What did you do to me?" Basically, him getting more angrier and about to punch, or about to, just take them all out. Superboy's saying, "Who are you? We should be asking you that." Basically, them getting into argument, but Megan saying, "Doesn't matter now." Her basically looking around, seeing that they got hit by a tornado by Twister. They would have they would have landed nearly safety, and Oliver would have jumped out of this ship right away, but pretty much with a little bit of his pretty much super strength in his legs, him running pretty fast. Now, pretty much Robin would have snuck off, getting into the pretty much area or the chemical base they were at, basically going in there and starting to track down or trying to go after Oliver. Oliver coming across Twister. Twister would have thrown a tornado towards Oliver, but Oliver would have dodged it, saying what the, basically him running toward Twister, grabbing him by the pretty much chest and ripping him apart just so smoothly, because Oliver had pretty much, super senses, since, Boltramites and Homelander, I think they do have senses or extra, pretty much abilities. And basically, he would have ripped apart Twister, and that whole episode would have been changed from that point on. And episode 3 would be basically about the team going after Oliver. Oliver would have been confused, and since Oliver, pretty much the transformation did mess with Oliver's abilities a lot, Oliver's eyes started going out of control, and Oliver's laser vision started acting up. Oliver started blasting cars, and basically Superboy started shooting laser vision at basically, well, pretty much pretty much Oliver. And Superboy didn't know he could shoot laser vision yet, but he started shooting it harder and harder towards basically Oliver. Oliver and him would have gone a staring contest, shooting laser vision back and forth. Now Oliver's laser vision would actually be a white energy, just homage to pretty much homage to Omni-Man's suit. Basically, he would have been shooting more laser vision left and right, and basically, eventually, they would have gotten blasted by the pretty much, compact of the laser vision, and Oliver would have been flying up into the sky. Now, a couple hours later, he started feeling his powers were coming back, and basically, the only thing that changed was he was basically as vulnerable as a normal half-blooded Viltrumite. So its vulnerability wasn't as strong as it originally was, but it did shift back and forth. So basically, for this point on, this universe's pretty much universe changed his, invulnerability to a point of basically invincible, pretty much invulnerability. But basically, he would have still been vulnerable enough to take the same amount of hits and dishes as Superman. So he would be as vulnerable or as invulnerable as Superman. So he wouldn't be as vulnerable as he was originally, because Oliver was basically god level invulnerability. He couldn't be hurt at all, but he still had his regeneration. So basically, him not being able to have enough, having enough regenerate, not him not having, god tier invulnerability wasn't really a big deal since Oliver didn't really care for his his pretty much vulnerability that much because his vulnerability was so strong that basically he never uses regeneration in the first place. But now he might have a chance to. Now, he was trying to find out where he was. He went around the world and basically he went to TVs, he went to newspapers, and eventually he stuck into a school and basically went in the computer and looked up using some of his, enhanced perception to basically quick run against all of the pretty much society, historical events, and heroes of this world, basically seeing that this world is completely different from his, but not so different because heroes are still a thing. And basically, he would have been, confronted by the team and also Red Tornado, and basically they would have, actually the team would have actually not been around going after him because they would have told the league, and basically the league would have shown up. Basically, the other team staying from afar because they didn't want to be left out. Now, Wally would have been hard headed and he would have run into the pretty much place, basically, him being stopped by Flash, Flash telling Wally, "Why are you here?" Wally's saying, "I'm trying to help you." Basically, Flash would have been, kind of confused on why he wants to help him since we're the Justice League and we could take down a kid like this. And basically, it pretty much since Oliver was incredibly strong, had the powers of basically two type of Supermans combined, plus a couple extra abilities, and on top of that, he did have God tier regeneration, but didn't have enough vulnerability that he was originally. But still, he is vulnerable enough. He is as vulnerable as Superman, so he is pretty strong. So basically, Oliver would have been basically flying around, and basically he would have been dodging all the Justice League's attacks because he was trained by the most sophisticated and most pretty much respected heroes of his universe. And also he was trained by a couple other heroes that were similar to basically Superman's power set. So basically he started fighting all of them and started bodying all the members of all the members of the Justice League. And basically eventually he came across the top three: Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman. And Superman saw that all the 10 members of the Justice League, including Shazam, were completely taken out, just knocked out cold. Seeing that Oliver was incredibly strong, and seeing that Oliver was scared. Now, pretty much, Superman would have thought Oliver was Kryptonian since he's shown Kryptonian abilities, and basically, pretty much Superman did see that he was stronger than a Kryptonian can possibly ever get because he had the powers of a Viltrumite and plus the powers of a modified human that had nearly about the same abilities as a Kryptonian. So basically, still, I'm going to stress this enough. Oliver is way stronger than any Kryptonian, including Superman, but isn't stronger than, other versions of Superman, like Sun Superman, or pretty much, what was it? Basically, what was it? Blue Sun powered Superman. But basically, he's as strong as a Blue Sun powered Kryptonian. Basically, him being strong enough to take down Superman just by about five or six punches, very firm punches against the face. And basically, Superman started to fly towards Oliver, and Oliver started dodging more attacks left and right. Now, Oliver would have a hero name, and his hero name would have been Omni. That's just it, just Omni. Basically, he would have dodged, and Omni would have pretty much picked up a couple cars and would have thrown them at Superman. Superman would have dodged most of them, but flying straight towards them, basically going toe-to-toe with Oliver. And their fight would be stretched out around the whole entire world. Basically, Oliver throwing Superman against mountains, then flying all around. Eventually, them actually fighting so hard that they pretty much went right through the Grand Canyon and basically made thousands of more holes deeper than the Grand Canyon itself. Basically, them going back and forth. Eventually, pretty much Oliver would have cornered Superman in the Antarctica about a couple miles away from pretty much pretty much the Fortress of Solitude. Basically, he was about to end Superman, about to pretty much laser him in the face. Basically, Superman being coughing up blood because he was being punched so hard as he ever can. Because Oliver was about one like literally 1% stronger than Darkseid, and basically he started to choke out Superman, about to laser him down. Basically, Superman saying, "Stop, please." Basically, Superman trying to raise him with Oliver. Basically, Oliver would have let go of Superman, and Oliver would have noticed a couple abilities and powers that Oliver has, saw against Superman. And Oliver would have thought Superman was some sort of, somebody like him, since he has somewhat the same power set as him, but just a tad bit weaker. Now, basically, since Oliver didn't have all the powers of a Kryptonian, since he didn't have pretty much super breath, and also wait, I'm pretty sure Homelander does have super breath. Oh wait, let me look that up real quick. Enhanced vocal cords. Homelander also has that. So basically, he does have some sort of super scream of some sorts, and basically, pretty much Oliver was about to shoot him, just murk Superman, but he let go. Basically, Superman and Oliver had a look, and basically couple days later, about a couple pretty much a day later or a couple days later, basically these days being stretched out, and basically episode 4 of season 1 actually being changed a lot. Basically, episode 4 of season 1 not being Drop Zone, but basically it being replaced by an episode titled Oliver and Super Oliver. Basically, Oliver would have been pretty much trained by Superman in a couple of days, and Superman would also been kind of, distraught, thinking about, pretty much Superboy as well. Basically, Oliver would have thought this, and basically Oliver would have came across Superman saying that I think I have enough training, and I think I know enough about the world now, or this universe now. Now, Justice League would have tried to find a way to try to bring Oliver back to his world, but they couldn't find a way. Basically, they eventually said the most temporarily or permanent option we can give Oliver now would probably be him living with, the team. So that's what Oliver was. Oliver was given a role on, the team. And basically, on episode 5, Scold, Oliver was given a spot on the team. Now, at the beginning, Oliver was flying past a building, flying past a pretty much area, seeing that it was pretty much about to blow, seeing that pretty much, what was it? Seeing that basically sorry guys, I lost my concentration. Flying past the bridge, but him seeing Superboy or Superman showed up. Superman would have had the same conversation with Superboy, and Oliver would have shown up behind him saying, "Hey," basically Superboy saying, "You, why are you here?" Basically, Oliver saying, "I'm on your team now," and that's getting hit with that intro, and basically, pretty much, basically Oliver would have walked away. Basically, him getting pretty pumped up to join the team. And basically, Oliver would have been, having the same hero costume that he does right in this, right in this picture. Basically, only thing changing is that all the basically his gloves would have white spots for his knuckles, well, no, black spots for his knuckles. Scratchy. He just had the same outfit as this. I'm not going to modify his outfit anymore. Basically, Oliver would have been joined to the Young Justice. Basically, Red Tornado would have introduced him alongside Superman being there as well. Superman being kind of distraught why or what to say to Superboy. And basically, Batman would have seen this, and Batman would have still had that whole entire thing with Superman. Basically, him saying you have to give Superboy a chance. You gave Oliver a chance, and he just came out of the blue. Superman is literally made out of you. Superboy is literally made out of you. And basically, Oliver, you know, basically became more you know, pretty much acquainted with everybody. Hey guys, so I just wanted to look up something real quick and stop my video real quick, and I just want to say this. I'm pretty sure Megan should go to jail. I'm not kidding. Basically, in human years, Megan is 48 years old, and Superboy is literally like one or two or three. Basically, Megan and Superboy, have a relationship, but Megan is actually 28 in Earth years, but only 16 in Martian years. But still, you're on Earth, so it's kind of illegal for you to have feelings for a 3-year-old. So I'm pretty sure Megan should go to jail, but it's out of my hands. It's for the writers to explain, but whatever. So basically, I'm pretty sure Megan is, she just weird. But basically, um, I was going to ship Oliver with Megan before I found out she was 48 in human years, but I'm just gonna go with the Martian years since she is Martian. So I'm just gonna say she's 16 or whatever. And basically, since Oliver is 13 and actually is 13 in human years, but also is 16 in Ultramite years. What was it? No, Ultramite years. He's about basically Oliver Grayson in canon is about like 14 to 16 years old. So I'm just gonna say Grayson is 16 years old, about to turn 16. Since in this universe, years do change a little bit differently, meaning that Oliver is technically old enough to, I guess, date Megan's. I'm gonna ship. I'm confused and distraught, but yet again, Superboy. So basically, you know what? Oliver is going to be the ship. Oliver, you guys, you can decide if Oliver should be with Megan or not, or should Oliver become Megan's second partner, or like take the role or take the place of Megan, or I mean, Lagoon Boy. Oliver, Oliver would have been, Oliver would have gotten ready, and basically this episode, the mission, or basically they were given a mission about pretty much, well, would have been given a mission about pretty much, what was it? Basically about, sorry guys, I forgot his name. I think it was Amazo. Yeah, Amazo. So basically, by the time, Oliver was introduced to the team, Megan started getting feelings for Oliver, actually, since Oliver did have the same amount of, did have pretty much the same height as Roy, pretty much kind of like nearly the same build, but a little bit, just a tad more skinnier. But he was stronger than Superboy. Basically, we were to start with basically Black, what was it, Black Canary showing everybody for training, and you go up first, pretty much asking Oliver first, pretty much before pretty much Wally. Now Wally would have watched this saying, let's watch. Basically, Megan saying, I think he's gonna win. Now basically, Black Canary would have gone for a punch towards Oliver. Oliver would have grabbed it and would have punched Black Canary in the neck, basically kicking her down to the ground. Oliver would have grabbed Black Canary by the neck, basically about to punch her in the face really hard, but him basically being stopped by pretty much, well, Marsh Manhunter by a sidekick attack, basically pretty much, him not really being, really, well, you know, kind towards telepathic, attacks. He would have thrown pretty much Black Canary at Martian Manhunter falling down to the ground. Now basically Megan would have been confused and would have tried to stop Oliver, but Oliver would have stopped and basically would have remembered a coping technique that Superman told him to calm down and to not let your anger control you. I had to deal with that the hard way. And basically Oliver Oliver calmed down, basically him stopping and him saying sorry. On my world, I mainly go up against, villains that are pretty durable. So when I punch them, I really mostly don't hold back that much. And basically, Black Canary got up and saying, You don't have to apologize. You're supposed to go all out. This job is about a life or death. Your villains won't let you get a second chance. And basically, her saying, next again. Basically, Oliver saying again. But I just okay. Basically, him going to a fighting position, going towards a punch towards Black Canary, but Black Canary pretty much dropping Oliver and folding him very quickly, saying that you guys want to know what happened wrong here. Basically, Robin saying, "Oh, boy got flipped in the first try." Basically, you know, Oliver said, "First try. I beat her the first time, dummy." Basically, them having a conversation, or not really a conversation, more of a straight up argument. Him about to punch, Robin, but him being stopped when pretty much Megan grabs him by the arm, weirdly, if you know what I mean. Basically, her saying, stop, please. Basically, Oliver stopping, saying, okay, sorry, again. Basically, you know, Superboy saying, you're more out of control than me. Basically, Oliver not really going out of control anymore. Basically saying, really, coming from a little half-breed mess of a creature. Basically, Superboy saying, what did you call me? Now, basically, Oliver does know that he is a clone, but he does know that he actually he does know that he is a clone, but at least he has a stable, relationship with one of his clone DNA, donors. Now, basically Homelander was found out that he did have a cloned son by the time, or a clone version of him that was technically in DNA terms his son, but basically, pretty much, he did know that he had a biological clone son, and basically he did have a relationship with Oliver for about 2 to 3 months, and basically, pretty much Homelander's original canon son, he did not know anything about it, and he just didn't care because he already had another son. But basically, doing this whole entire thing, Why would have gone up next. He would have been folded, and France Boy would have been told by Black Canary, you're going up next, and basically Black Canary would have pretty much folded Superboy all the same. And basically, Oliver would have known, or Oliver would have learned the whole entire thing about how Superboy is a genetic clone of Superman and Lex Luthor, or mainly Superman. Basically, him, not really trying to say anything like that again towards Superman. But right at that moment, Batman would have called them for a mission to basically, track down or escort the pretty much trucks that are containing the items or the pieces of basically Amazo. And then we've shown that Amazo can copy superhuman abilities and redistribute them as abilities and basically go up against people. And we send more people after them, or more Justice Leaguers, and it took 6 hours for them to take him down. Basically, him saying that he evolved and became stronger with each attack or each person he fought. But basically, they would have been told to escort and to surveillance the pretty much trucks containing the pieces of pretty much, the Amazo. Basically, Oliver would have gone with Superboy and Robin. Basically, Oliver not trying to say anything else to Superboy, but him basically telling Superboy, driving up to him after Robin goes faster than him, pretty much saying that, after Robin, compensated with Superboy, basically, Oliver steps in saying, sorry, Superboy, what I said to you earlier. I know that, I'm a clone too, and it's not really fair for me to clown on you, but still, not trying to be a rude guy, but I just want to say, I'm really sorry what I said to you, and we should be more of friends, because since we are technically made kind of the same way. Basically, Superboy would have been thinking about this, but he would have been just consumed by anger, but him still trying to, bring up or trying to accept the fact that he might become pretty good friends with Oliver, since Oliver does share the same type of, kind of pain with Superboy, since Oliver did have a little bit of a better childhood and he was raised actually normally in a fake type of neighborhood, kind of like Homelander's son and the boys. Basically, him pretty much, him knowing that it was all fake, but him being grateful that he wasn't just a clone subject test dummy that pretty much the scientists didn't care about at all. Basically, Robin and Superboy and Oliver would have been tracking down over the pretty much truck after the truck was pretty much about to get attacked or sabotaged by the robot monkeys. Basically, Robin would have told them to pit their motorcycles in attack mode or pretty much, stealth mode. Basically, Oliver and Superboy saying no need. Basically, Superboy and Oliver jumping on top of the ship. Now, basically, Superboy would have jumped on top of the ship. I mean, the pretty much truck, but Oliver would have flown on top of it. Oliver will use his laser vision to basically blast down all the aliens, and basically Superboy would have jumped after pretty much, well, the robots, and basically would have jumped after the truck. Now we can switch back to Wally and pretty much Megan. We're just going up against the robot monkeys on their part of their mission. But basically, they would have gone toe to toe and basically would have started to fight. Basically, all of them about to take down pretty much, well, them in general. Now, basically, Superboy, Robin would have helped pretty much one of the people out of the truck since their truck was sabotaged and he was flipped over. Basically, Oliver and Superboy looking at it. Basically, Superboy, getting angry, flying, jumping after, pretty much the robot monkeys. Now, basically, Oliver would have seen this and Oliver would have flown after Superboy. Now, basically, Robin would have told Oliver to, calm down. And basically, Oliver would have said, you can track me by my comm. I'll be right on Superboy's tail. Basically, him flying after Superboy. Superboy leaving behind his comm because he doesn't want any help. Superboy noticing that Oliver was flying after him, but Superboy not really caring since Oliver is technically just like him, or kind of like him. Basically, Oliver would have flown after Superboy, and Megan and pretty much Kid Flash and the rest of the team would have found out that the robots were GPSing the pieces of Amazo, and that they're pretty much coming across, or the pieces are being pretty much, triagonally pretty much placed or tracked towards Gotham City, and they're going towards basically, his school or Robin's school. Now we get switched back to Robin and Clark Kent talking, but us getting switched back to basically Ivo, pretty much sicking Amazo onto Superboy. Superboy was being folded by Amazo. When Superboy was punched through the pretty much cart onto another outside cart, basically being folded by Amazo, pretty much Oliver would have stepped in, grabbing Amazo's fist, saying, "Is that all you got?" Punching Amazo in the stomach, making a hole. Basically, Amazo would have thrown Oliver towards the basically pretty much, what was it? Oliver would have been thrown against the pretty much sky alongside Superboy, then both landing into the skull of Robin's school. Now basically Amazo would have followed them shortly after, being told by Ivo that taking them down is priority alpha. Now basically we could switch to Robin driving down to Gotham City limits, and basically him being shortly followed after by Kid Flash. Now Kid Flash saying, how do you think Oliver is dealing with him? And basically pretty much, Robin saying, I'm more, worried about Superboy, since Superboy isn't as strong as Oliver. Now basically Superboy, knowing that Oliver is incredibly strong, knowing that Oliver is a big heavy hitter. Basically Robin would have said they're going towards my school. Now it's getting switched to pretty much a picture of Dick Grayson and his cool, President of the Year or whatever. I don't really care. And basically him us getting zoomed out by pretty much Oliver and Superboy being pretty much double tagged, or them winning slightly, but them both getting double tagged by Amazo. Now Amazo would have seen that, pretty much Oliver's abilities are very, very more newly, and they are stronger than Superman's abilities. Seeing that pretty much Amazo does figure out that pretty much Oliver is way more stronger than Superman. Basically, Oliver seeing that basically he found out that he was getting punched harder and harder each time. Basically, Amazo, using Oliver's strength against him. Him copying Oliver's strength. Now, Oliver hasn't shown any of his other abilities, like his laser vision, his increased senses, his increased enhanced vocal cords, also his other abilities, and also his regeneration and his invulnerability. He hasn't shown any of those powers yet. Basically, him just showing off his increased, super, like new god or like dark side type of strength. But basically, he gets to switch to Superboy, and both of them getting double tagged and pretty much being beaten to a bloody pulp, both of them. But basically, uh, pretty much, you know, Amazo shortly seeing that when he punches, pretty much when he punches, what was it? When he punches Oliver, he sees that he's supposed to have cuts on him, but it seems that Oliver's regeneration or his super, godly amount of speed regeneration is too fast, and basically, he doesn't see any type of cuts, bruises, or anything on, Oliver. Just sees that his suit is getting ripped up. And basically, right when Superboy was going to get smashed or kicked or pretty much ended off by, Amazo, he would have gotten grabbed or saved by Oliver. But Oliver would have seen that pretty much Kid Flash and Robin show up. Kid Flash, Robin, Superboy, and Oliver start pretty much double tagging and straight up just try to jump. Pretty much, what was it? Amazo. Now, Amazo sees that Oliver's strength is incredibly strong, and Oliver can technically take down the whole team of the Young Justice if he really wanted to, seeing that Oliver is incredibly strong. Now, basically, Man, pretty much, Amazo would have been, pretty much running and started to pretty much taking down and started to squeeze Wally with the strength of pretty much Oliver. Now, Oliver would have, seen this, but an arrow would have come out of nowhere, and basically Amazo would have been forced to transform or to shift to Martian Manhunter's abilities, phasing through the arrow, but in the same, pretty much motion, letting go of Wally. Wally would have run out the way, but pretty much Robin seeing the arrow land there alongside, pretty much Oliver crouching right next to pretty much Robin. Now, basically, Oliver would have seen this and would have flew towards pretty much, would have flown towards Amazo, grabbing him by the shoulders, squeezing him as hard as he can, trying to pierce through the middle, getting close enough, but basically, what was it? Basically, Amazo transforming or copying the abilities of Martian Manhunter, facing his hand into pretty much Oliver's chest, making it solid and making a hole in Oliver's chest, basically killing Oliver, or pretty much the whole team thinks Oliver's dead. Oliver falls out to the ground, covered up blood and technically dying, but basically Oliver tricking the robot into thinking he's dying, and him grabbing the robot's arm and pretty much cracking it or ripping it off. Now, basically, the robot falls into the ground and sees that Oliver is healing, and basically the robot pretty much modifies itself to heal itself. Basically, Oliver being incredibly, stupid, not really thinking it through, seeing that now the robot is, recreated my god type, regeneration. And basically, Oliver gets into a fighting technique, and basically the suit starts healing, because pretty much Oliver's suit is made out of material on his universe that basically is a type of fabric that most hero costumes are made out of. And they're basically a material that can regenerate with or heal. Not with, but just heal in general. Basically, if you get a stain, the stain just falls off of the suit. Basically, the suit being able to not get dirty or ripped at all. It being in perfect condition for 1,000 years. Now, basically, Oliver would have started to fight toe-to-toe with pretty much Amazo more and more, but Amazo would have, enhanced his strength more and more, eventually would have become smarter, and started to, merge Superman, Oliver, and Superboy's strength in one, basically becoming incredibly strong. Him punching more holes into Oliver, like I mean punching through Oliver's, already weakened invulnerability, and basically kicking him harder and harder and harder. Oliver would have gone down to the ground, and pretty much Superboy would have seen Oliver coughing up more blood in Oliver's body, healing faster and faster, but basically Oliver's body being too overpowered because Amazo is using too much of his speed, strength, and agility to try to completely just obliterate Oliver in, well, pretty much multiples. Basically, Oliver can regenerate pretty fast, but if he's, if his body's given too many, like thousands of points of regeneration he has to do, it's too much for his body. And basically, Oliver tries to stop, and basically, pretty much the team tricks or tries to pretty much set off, pretty much, what was it? Amazo. Now, Amazo phases right in the moment where pretty much Robin throws a batarang towards him, and basically he phases back into reality before pretty much Superboy punches a hole or puts a hole right through Amazo's head before Amazo becomes solid, and Amazo explodes because it's a hand through his head. He blows up, and the rest of the team show up, telling him, and Robin pretty much, frankly panicking, saying to disassemble him because he don't know if he's gonna get back up. And basically, we get switched back to pretty much Oliver getting up and healing. Now, the rest of the team shows up, basically making actually going to Oliver instead of Superboy, saying, "Are you okay?" Basically, Oliver saying, "Yeah, I'm okay." Basically, his body slowly starting to regenerate, but faster along, the other smaller cuts. Basically, his body healing pretty fast, and his outfit also healing as well. Basically, making me confused, saying, "Is that Martian?" And pretty much saying, "No, it's just a type of, fabric from my universe." And basically, him looking into Megan's eyes, and pretty much us getting switched back to the cave. And basically, we get switched back to Mount Justice, and basically, pretty much, Green Arrow, Batman, Red Tornado, and Black Canary, and Martian Manhunter pretty much congratulate the pretty much 6 of the team members. Pretty much, Black Canary tells them that you did okay. Basically, them saying that you did pretty strong. Pretty much, them saying you made a lot of mess. Basically, saying that, since Oliver and Superboy fought against Amazo, Oliver did show up a lot more strength, meaning that more of the buildings and areas of the Gotham City school was completely demolished. But Batman did say that you did, a good, okay job. Pretty much saying that you did as well, Oliver. You did extremely good. Now, basically, Oliver looking and smirking towards Superboy, and him smirking together. And basically, Batman would have said, "You bring him in a better team." And basically, well, that's where we're going to leave it off here. And basically, they would have the same conversation, but Robin would have said, "You don't trust us at all," before that ends off pretty much taking out the same arrow that saved them. Before or earlier in the fight against Amazo, or saved Wally. And basically, would have shown Nero. And basically, Nero would have told, Robin that it's not my arrow, and they would have assumed that Speedy saved Wally. Basically assuming that it was Speedy's arrow. Now basically, you're getting switched off on that, and basically we would have been switched on to basically Oliver that night. Oliver would have been looking up into the sky, and basically Oliver would have been flying up into the sky about on a couple of clouds, and he would have been thinking about this world and how, how this world is compared to his. And basically, Oliver would have been, more shot, but basically Oliver would have been flying around faster and faster. It would have gone around the whole entire world, flying around it, and pretty much observing this different, pretty much realities, pretty much in the world. But he would have been, and completely switched off, and he would have flown back to the cave and would have gone back to sleep. He would have ran into Megan, and pretty much they would have had a look, but he would have gone back to his room, saying goodnight, Megan. Basically, him going to sleep that night. Now, basically, Oliver would have been thinking about his universe, but would have said that his universe may be better than mine. Now, basically, I'm going to be switching off here, and I'm going to be ending it off here, guys. So, basically, the person that requested the video, I hope you liked it, and like and subscribe, and it's also, guys, have a blessed day, but also, like, subscribe, and click the notification bell, because we all know YouTube is trash for sending notifications
they're trash. I subscribed to one YouTuber, and about 5 months later, I got a, I got pretty much a setting from it, and he made like a months of videos, and I had to binge watch all those videos because I didn't get any notifications at all on all those videos. So yeah, guys, so click the notification bell. As always, guys, stay blessed. See you guys later. Bye.